Cuts, scrapes, burns, we all experience them and reach for home remedies that we think are tried and true. But are we helping the healing process or just simply making it worse? Well, today we're setting the record straight about at-home wound care, what works, what doesn't, and when it may be time to call in an expert. So joining us is Dr. Marcus Duda with Cone Health Ortho Care. All right, let's talk about some myths. We're going to bust the myths here, some things that people have been doing all their lives. What's the very first thing we should do when we get a cut or a scrape?
Well, when we all grew up, whenever we had a wound, we went to mom and cried about our boo-boos. And I remember one time when I was a little kid, I got a burn and my neighbor goes, "Oh, you got to put some butter on that wound. That's the worst thing you should do." So basically we have to use more of a scientific approach and clean the wound with soap and water, use gentle pressure to stop the bleeding, and apply a moist dressing, usually with an antibiotic ointment or Vaseline, and that dressing needs to be changed daily. If you have a wound that's from a bite, a deep wound, or something that's contaminated with soil, that's when you need to seek medical attention.
All right, let's talk about this because this is something that's in a lot of our medicine cabinets, the hydrogen peroxide or the alcohol. And forever and a day, our moms and our grandmothers have been putting that hydrogen peroxide on our wounds. So is that helpful or harmful?
Well, hydrogen peroxide and alcohol are pretty much back in the dark ages when they used to put boiling oil on wounds. It really didn't help. The boiling oil and the peroxide and alcohol actually are killing the cells that are trying to heal the wound, and they are causing a lot of scarring, and it's definitely a no-no.
Okay, definitely a no-no. No alcohol, no hydrogen peroxide. We're going to do it soap and water. That's what I heard you say.
No boiling oil either.
And no boiling oil either. Okay. All right. Here's the other thing. A lot of people want to leave the wound open because they think that the fresh air is what helps it heal and that kind of thing. So is it best to cover something or not cover something?
So our body is mostly salt water. And so for all the cells in our body to work properly, they need to stay moist. So letting it air out to the sun, letting it dry out is going to kill all the healing, healthy tissue and cause scarring and slow down wound healing.
All right, so you actually want to keep a wound in a moist environment versus a dry environment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's not something I think most of us thought of. Now, you did mention before about putting Vaseline on a wound. So a lot of us have that antibiotic ointment or the Vaseline. When should you use them and when should you not?
So you always, after you clean it with soap and water, you want to get some gauze and apply a little bit of your antibiotic ointment. You can use the petroleum jelly like Vaseline, but something to keep the wound just a little bit damp. You don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry. You just want it just damp enough to keep those cells healthy and healing the wound.
All right, and then we're talking about the skin knees and things of that nature. This is the normal kind of wound we're talking about.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So what's the most common mistake then you see when people make when it comes to the at-home wound care?
Well, usually they're trying to dry the wound out, let it get sun. They're using hydrogen peroxide or alcohol, which is killing the tissue. And this is slowing down the healing process. It causes scabbing, which is actually dead tissue, which is not what you want to see with a healing wound.
Oh, because you always heard, oh, there's a scab. That means that it's healing. That is actually not true. Okay. We've got a lot more to unpack about all this. We'll be back in just a few moments.